Anna starts taking powerful anti-anxiety medications, which negatively affect her body and mental state. At work, she occasionally stands up for a boy named Jack, who is constantly made fun of by high school students. After buying another dose of pills and changing her hair color, Anna goes to her teacher's funeral. There she meets a man named Elliot, who prepares bodies for funeral ceremonies at a funeral home. For a moment, the girl thinks that the deceased sighed, but she decides that she just imagined it. She gets in her car and drives away, while Elliot watches her through the window. In the evening, Anna meets Paul at a restaurant. He tells her that he has received an offer for a new position in another city. Anna assumes that Paul wants to break up with her, after which they fight and the girl hurriedly leaves. She screams that he is crazy and just like his mother. Getting into the car, Anna turns the music up and drives away, but soon gets into a serious accident. She wakes up in the basement of a funeral home. When she asks where she is, Elliot tells her the truth. She refuses to believe him, and then the man shows her the death certificate. He then explains that her blood has stopped circulating, her brain cells are dying, and her body is beginning to decompose. Anna wants to move, but she can't. Elliot says that everyone denies their death when they first wake up on the autopsy table. Meanwhile, Paul wakes up to find that Anna hasn't come home. He tries to call her, and at this point we learn that Paul was going to propose to her that night at the restaurant. The guy goes in search of her. First, he goes to school but finds out that Anna hasn't been there. Then Paul comes to her mother, Beatrice. She tells him that Anna is dead. She blames him for letting her drive in the rain. Shocked by grief, Paul is unable to form a single word. Meanwhile, Anna is still convinced that she is alive and begs Elliot to let her go home. While he sews up the wound on her head, the man insists that she is dead. He injects her with a liquid that helps to relax her muscles and slow down the ending. Anna loses consciousness, and it is at this moment that Beatrice arrives at the funeral home. She demands that Elliot return Anna to her natural hair color. She also claims that this is just her daughter's body, and that her soul is already at peace. However, Elliot insists that Anna's soul is still here. Meanwhile, Anna's student Jack cuts out a newspaper article about the accident that killed his teacher. He approaches his mother and asks why she didn't pick him up from school, but the woman silently watches TV. Anna wakes up and realizes that she can move her body. She quickly checks her pulse and hits the table with her hand, trying to feel pain to prove to herself that she is alive. She starts screaming for someone to let her out, but the door is locked. At this time, Paul arrives at the funeral home demanding to see Anna's body. Elliot refuses him because he is not technically a family member. When Elliot returns to the basement, he finds Anna sitting on the floor. The man tells her that Paul came to see her and asks if she really loved him. Anna avoids answering and continues to insist that she is alive. Elliot orders a coffin in her size and leaves the basement. Meanwhile, Paul goes to the police. He finds Anna's car and takes the doll from it. At this time, Anna notices another body in the basement, Mrs. Whitehall. Seeing the dead woman, Anna realizes that she does not want to die. When Elliot returns to the basement, Anna attacks him with scissors. The man explains again that he is talking to her because he has a gift for communicating with people who are between life and death. It is his job to help the dead make the transition to the other world. Eventually, Anna begins to doubt that she is alive and despairs. She lies down on the table. Later, she wakes up and sees Mrs. Whitehall standing in front of her. A metal door opens in one corner of the room, and when Anna enters, she finds herself in a mystical dark world. There she meets a girl who tells her something, but it turns out to be just a vision. Elliot is preparing flowers for Mrs. Whitehall's funeral. Jack comes up to him and asks when Anna's funeral will be. After talking to the boy, Elliot goes to the basement and sees that it is a mess. He assumes that Anna is still down there. At this time, Elliot notices that Jack was standing outside and saw his teacher in the window. The broken girl voluntarily goes down to the basement and allows the dye to be washed off her hair according to her mother's wishes. Meanwhile, Paul comes to Anna's school to pick up her things. There he meets Jack, and the boy tells him that he saw Anna at the funeral home wearing a red dress. Paul loses his patience and snaps at the boy. Elliot and Anna are in the basement, where the man is preparing another body for burial. Then he injects yellow liquid into Anna's neck again, causing her to lose consciousness. After that, he goes upstairs to the office, where he looks at the photos of the bodies and starts talking to them. Suddenly, he notices a police car and seems to be a little scared, but it turns out that the policeman is the brother of the deceased, whom Elliot is preparing for the ceremony. In the basement, the policeman notices Anna's body. He asks Elliot to give him a few minutes alone with his brother. When the man leaves, the policeman approaches Anna's body and begins to touch it. Then Elliot returns, and the policeman is forced to leave. Meanwhile, Jack comes back to the funeral home where he meets Elliot. The man tells the boy that he has a gift, and that the first dead person to speak to him was his mother. Elliot even offers to teach Jack how to use this gift. Meanwhile, Paul remembers that the girl was wearing a red dress. He goes to the funeral home, where he insists on seeing Anna. The girl wakes up at that moment, but does not react. because now she thinks she is dead. Elliot does not allow Paul to go down to the basement, and he goes to the police. There he asks his friend to issue a search warrant. Paul explains that Anna tried to call him and assures him that she is alive. While looking through the documents, Paul notices that Anna's body was barely examined after the accident. They only checked for pupil constriction and pulse. He assumes that Elliot might have done something bad to her. One of the police officers confirms that certain medications can cause complete paralysis in a few seconds, and the heartbeat almost stops. But his friend finds this story implausible, and he refuses to issue a search warrant. At this time, Elliot is preparing Anna for the funeral. She begins to open up to him, telling him how she regrets her life and wants to change everything. She confesses that she has always lived a very boring life and has never allowed herself to truly love, because as a child she saw that love can only hurt. She says that she loved Paul, but she was never able to tell him. Elliot opens the door and tells her that she has a chance to make things right. Anna begins to hallucinate and stands in the doorway, unable to move. She hears the words, "You all say you are afraid of death, but in reality, you are afraid of living." Later, Elliot goes to dig a hole in the cemetery. There he meets Jack, who asks him about his gift. Elliot explains his philosophy of life. He says that he has the gift of seeing the bodies of people who are not necessarily dead, but wandering aimlessly, making their lives even more miserable. He considers it his duty to bury such people so that they do not take away the air from those who really want to live. The next morning, Anna lies in her coffin waiting for her funeral. Elliot is preparing to inject her with the same drug that the policeman mentioned. Before the injection, she asks Elliot to look in the mirror again. She sighs and notices that her breath has left a mark on the glass. She realizes that Elliot has been manipulating her from the beginning. She is alive. She protests, but Elliot injects her, claiming that she just wants to believe it. At the funeral, Paul approaches the coffin and leaves Anna's wedding ring on her finger. He notices how cold her body is and begins to cry, gradually realizing that she is indeed dead. Elliot looks a little nervous, as if he is afraid that someone will suspect something is wrong. Anna regains consciousness as they begin to bury her. During these events, Paul gets very drunk. He still can't believe that Anna is dead and argues with Elliot about it. Instead of reassuring him, Elliot suggests that he check to see if she is alive, saying that there is little time left. Paul rushes to the cemetery, where he digs up Anna's grave and rescues her, but it turns out that it was a dream. In reality, Paul had driven off the highway and had an accident. He wakes up in the funeral home where Elliot is now with Jack, explaining to him that he is dead. But Paul feels pain as Elliot begins to perform an autopsy.